Happy Tuesday. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I had some technology issues. My laptop decided it was a great idea to, run some updates because, why not? Why not just throw some updates when I really needed this? But here we are, episode 22, 1 week away from my 1 year commitment to a weekly show on YouTube where I share my thoughts and insights about business and the accounting industry. And if you've been paying attention, the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about service delivery in the accounting space. And this all started by just a post that I put up on LinkedIn asking the question, hey, what do we do about service delivery? Why is it so poor? What is going on and how do we fix it? And I put that post up mostly because I'd started to receive quite a lot of requests from my clients going, we're no longer happy with our tax provider. They're pushing the price up, giving us less, and it's near impossible to get hold of them. People were not happy about that. And they still aren't happy about that. So we thought we'd start this conversation. And that post, it was busy. We got like 39 comments on it. I have taken down some notes. We've generally spoken about it. Last week, we definitely dug into the communication side of it, which you'll see. I'll go through some of the responses, from the post, and you'll see that vast majority of them are talking about communication. But when it comes down to it, there are going to be 4 areas of focus that will come through from the comments that seem to be creating the situation of poor service delivery. And when I look down at them, they're all solvable. They are problems that can be fixed. And maybe we won't get into solutions today, but we're definitely going to talk about it. I'm going to start by just going through some of the notes from the comments. I'll highlight these 4 areas and then I'll give some high level thoughts on how we can work together to make sure that we're continuously improving and focusing in on, can we be better as an industry at providing service that people are satisfied with? And that's all I'm looking for, right? Satisfied. We're setting the bar low because it is a problem at the moment. It's up to the individuals to exceed that bar. And that's my goal on a daily basis. How do I make sure that these low bars that I'm setting for the industry in whole, we soar over the top so that we can help that bar increase? And I promise you, service delivery problems are not immune. I'm not immune to them. We are constantly working on how can we be better with our clients, how can we communicate better, and how do we make sure that the service that we're providing our clients is the service they're looking for. And those are all very tricky questions. But let's dig into it. Here are some of the feedback on this post from 2 weeks ago that definitely got a little bit of chatter. So I'll go through some of them. Communication is an afterthought. Accountants are too busy to continuously focus on communication, and they're just trying to get through work. Next point was, there's not a lot of listening happening. There's a lot of reacting to what they think people need rather than actually listening to what their clients really need. No time or no desire to have conversations with our clients. We're just trying to get through the work and get finished with our own days. There was a point brought up about poor empathy. Accountants not really caring about their clients in terms of what their situation is, but rather just trying to get the work done. They can solve for their own issues. We're not there to solve their problems. We're there to help them with their compliance. That's a tricky one. It could really be dependent on your setup. We see ourselves as problem solvers, so we push empathy and listening to our clients and try to help them solve their problems. That's not for everyone. That's okay. But people like to feel heard, so we might want to consider some empathy. A lot of focusing in on checking the boxes. Did I respond to an email rather than did I respond correctly to an email, or did I actually listen to what they're asking, but I got that email out? Just getting the work done again, right? Just tick the box, just keep moving. Speed, finalization, we're finished, we're through busy season. There's quite a few notes on people taking on too much work. Way too many clients for the size of operation, too many clients for the people employed. Definitely a problem. We see that a lot from other outsourced accounting businesses, generally smaller practices, maybe sole proprietors that we take work from. Work was fantastic and it just got worse and worse. And when you get down into it, the person who had the work is still really good. The work is not terrible, but they've taken on too much work and the clients have grown around them and they haven't looked for ways to sort of solve for that too much work burden. That communication falls off. They start missing deadlines. They sort of get confused on who they're talking to. Too much work can be a problem. Poorly defined service offerings. So, as simple as we'll do your taxes versus, hey, we will do X, Y, and Z within your taxes. We'll provide you with this planning. We'll help with estimates. All the little details that are really important in terms of what are you offering. Very broad strokes. Like, I could easily say, okay, we'll do your bookkeeping. What does that mean? Well, we need a scope of service saying we'll do X, Y, and Z, and I expect you to do A, B, and C. We need to improve that as well. We're not always the best at it, and we like to help our clients, so that becomes the issue. Lack of communication, bad expectation setting. So, sometimes this happens where you get into early, new clients, or you respond to the emails really quickly, so happy to have them, but you're doing this in a way that's just not sustainable, especially during the busy season. So during your quieter time, you're responding within minutes. And then you get to busy season and you're responding within days. So the client has got an expectation of this is what they're going to receive from you, but you can't maintain that. So you've set bad expectations of what they should be receiving from you. That can be a tricky one. A lot of scope drift, shift, taking on work that isn't necessarily within their contracts. And then when you don't necessarily do it another time, people get upset because, well, you've done it before for the same price. Those can be tricky. That's a hard one. It's always a hard one. Again, want to help, want to do good. Not being proactive, yeah, that one can be tricky. Uh, you know, Especially if you're in the tax space, reaching out to people. Hey, this new legislation's coming out. You know, it's tough, but it is one of those quick ones where it's just create a newsletter, send out the latest updates to your clients. There's ways to work around that, but being proactive can be tough. Um, it's all about process, procedure, requesting information when you need it, getting in front of people when they need it. You're raising concerns where you see issues with cash flow or payments, or did you miss this? Not being proactive enough can be tricky. It's also very difficult to plan for. So it can be tough. But again, set expectations, try to be proactive, try to be a good partner. Not incorporating enough tech or new tech within their business and getting stuck in the old ages. Um, I get that one. I guess, I'm not, I didn't get contact from this person. Are they talking about people who are still dealing with paper forms and saying, hey, you got to deliver these documents to my office? Or if it's just people that are stuck in software that potentially is not moving with the times. Either way, you have to spend time dealing with technology in your accounting business. People expect a certain amount of technology from all service providers. And it's really important for you to make sure that you're at least reviewing your tech stack on an annual basis to go, does this make sense? Is there a better offering? And what sort of would that interruption to my business look like if I make this change? I'm not saying you have to have the cutting edge. You don't have to run after the shiny object all the time, but I can see if you're not using technology or not using technology effective, that can be really frustrating for a client, especially if you're bringing in a younger generation into your practice that would expect a certain level of technology. So, invest some time in technology. People struggling to keep up with changes, this goes back to technology. Technology is moving so quickly. We got AI, generative AI, all that type of stuff happening. Technology changes all the time. But this is also very much in terms of, if you're a tax practitioner, or even, us who are advising our clients on their day-to-day business, laws and regulations are changing all the time. We don't do HR, but our clients expect us to know a little bit about managing their employees because we do run their payroll. So we have to stay on top of all these changes. We're in the wine industry, some very specific legislation that came out around recycling of bottles. Our clients expect feedback from us on that. Not all of them, but some of them. So we have to figure out ways to stay above these changes, share what we know, share our information, and give our best practices. It can be really, really tough to sort of keep on top of everything, but you have to create process, procedures, continuous learning, have that mindset that I want to improve, I want to know the answers so I can help my clients. But trying to find ways to stay on top of things is going to be very important. Um, there was a point brought up about there's just a global issue around deadlines, especially the tax deadlines. A lot of the deadlines are very old, they've been there forever, and it doesn't really take into the new complexities of this world. I think this is just sort of, again, around being proactive. If you know your client has a bit of a difficult close process or has a complicated tax return that could get affected by different changes, just talk to them soon. Like, set that expectation from the beginning. You have a complicated return. We are going to extend you to make sure that you get the best results. I think there's ways to work around that. I'm not sure if we're going to get the IRS to change their deadlines anytime soon. So we just have to work into that. But I do get it. It's tight. December closes, 4/15 is just around the corner. Um, Not enough people, so that comes back to not enough, take too much work, not enough people, not enough good people, probably a bigger issue around the accounting industry in general. And how do we cope with that situation where we believe that we need to get more people into the accounting space and keep them in the accounting space? Too much work and then poor setting of expectations. So a lot about too much work, a lot about poor procedures, a ton about communication and setting expectations, which I spent a whole 20 minutes discussing last week because I thought very crucial. But when we get down to it, I look through all these notes, I reread those comments, and I've done this a few times over the last 2 weeks, and I get down to these 4 key points that I think sum up the problems that we have in the accounting space. Number one, and this seems to be especially related to the tax profession, but it's not immune to any other situation within the accounting profession, is we're just taking on too much work. And if you go out there and you look on social media and you listen to all the experts, a lot of this comes down to just poor pricing. We're charging too little. So if we want to keep our own heads above water, we have to take on so many clients. So many. So you have so much going on. It's impossible to keep track of who is what and what's going on. It's impossible to keep, high service delivery levels if you're dealing with 100 people a day. Things are moving quickly. Your brain is scrambled. It's impossible to keep track of this change affects this client, which affects that client. You're being very reactive because you got too much in your head. You can never be proactive with these clients other than sharing changes to a global community, but it's just too much. And it does come down to pricing. It might come down to the shortage. It might come down to you just want to help so many people that you're like, sure, I'll help you. But it does seem to be a big, big part of this, and it has effect on a lot of the other issues going on in here. But taking on too much work and most likely overpromising, under delivering is part of that as well. But number one on this list is taking on too much work. Number two is staying up to date. Very tricky with the consistent changes happening around us all the time, and changes happening very quickly. You got this at federal level, state level. Then when you get into industries, they could even be, city levels, organizational levels, professional standard levels. We have different expectations as professionals ourselves changing. And it's hard to stay on top of things. So you have to figure out ways to get continuous education. You need to figure out ways to find time. I ask my team to look for it every week to try and improve themselves, set some time apart, stay up to trends, and be then proactive in sharing that information. This also does touch on the technology side, which is a bigger topic. I probably need to bring somebody on that's a little bit smarter than me, can talk about technology, automating. Hey, Isaac, if you're paying attention, maybe you want to come on Protea Weekly and we can discuss this in a little bit more detail as well. But trying to stay up to date with all the changes going on around us is very, very tough. And we do need, as a profession and individual business owners, to create better process to stay on top of things. Number three, poorly defined service offerings. I did go into this around communication, but it does seem that there is a big disconnect on the service we're offering versus the service people think they're buying. And those two aren't matching. Service is always going to feel terrible because you have a client expecting way more than you're willing to offer, which will lead to frustration. And if you're trying to keep them happy, you end up going to do way more for not enough money, which then leads to problem number one, too much work to keep your head above water. So we have to be very good at defining what we'll do for what price and making sure people actually understand what we're saying. We can't just send that contract out and they signed it and assume they know what it means. We need to have processes in place to make sure they understand it. I always recommend having a conversation and explaining it, reiterating that via an email, and then getting it confirmed via a signature of a contract or a scope of service. Very important to figure out a way to make sure that you, as the accountant, and them as a client are aligned on what services will be provided by who, and add in there what they need to do, your clients, to make sure that you can meet those expectations. So, what documentation do you need when? What are the deadlines they need to give you information if you want to meet deadlines and throw in their expectations around payment at the same time? Let's do a better job of defining our service offerings and what is expected for us to be able to achieve it. And number four, spent a lot of time on this one last week, and I'll keep pushing on it. Go check out episode 21, communication. When it comes down to it, accountants are poor at communication. I know I'm an accountant, and I'm poor at communication. It is something I work on a daily basis. I post about it on LinkedIn on a weekly basis, and most of that posting is a reminder to me to be better. It is a massive gap in our education, is learning how to communicate with people. Because what they do not tell you when you're studying accountant is that you're always dealing with a client. That doesn't matter if you're working for a firm that's helping other businesses in that B2B world, or if you're sitting at a desk at a big company, you still have a client. There is a user of that information, and you need to be able to communicate clearly, concisely, and timely with those people, both verbally and in written form. We all need to be better communicators. If you're a young accountant listening to this right now, prioritize learning communication skills. It will make you better at your job, and I promise you, it'll help you move up in your career way quicker. There are not enough accountants that are good at communication, and that can be a superpower that sets you apart. Clearly, a really important topic to me is the service delivery, and it's giving me, the last couple of weeks, it's given me a lot of thought process around the service delivery, procedures and processes at Protea and how we'll do better. But to summarize, I think, based on your comments, that the accounting industry has a problem with service delivery because, one, we're taking on too much work, probably because we're not charging enough. Number two, we're just not doing a good enough job to stay abreast of technology and legal and compliance changes. We're being way too reactive and not proactive enough to define those changes. Three, we're doing a terrible job at defining what services we're offering and making sure our end users understand those service offerings and what they should expect from us. Because they do not understand, they feel like service delivery is poor from the get-go. And four, and most likely the biggest one in this whole conversation, is that accountants generally have poor communication, and even some of the best of us need to continuously work on it, because better communication would remove a lot of stress and anxiety in the situations and probably leave a situation where clients feel better about us as service providers. We've spent a lot of time talking about service delivery, and who knows if this will make any difference. But I do feel like for me personally, it's at least given me a starting point to rethink my service offerings at Protea, make sure we better define what we're giving our clients, and figure out ways to be better communicators to remove as much tension and anxiety from situations. I hope that you can use these lessons and thoughts to help your business be better at service delivery to your clients. Better service delivery will remove stress from your life, it will make you happier, and happiness leads to success. As always, I appreciate you paying attention, listening to me talk on this platform. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Be kind. Till next time.